Chris's first impression was rough.
Sure, you guys probably know who I am.
Why would we know who you are?
Very cocky. What up, everybody? Here to talk a little Love Island Game Season 2, which premiered last night with a pretty long 2-hour premiere. And while it was a little long, I did enjoy myself, especially by the end. First episodes are always hard. It's always introductions. In this case, reintroductions, kinda. I think I just want to start with some of my biggest first impressions from the first episode. It was actually nice to see KK and Andrea again. I said in my cast assessment that I was hoping KK can have a redemption. I'm not so certain after the first episode. I liked KK's first introduction, talking about how she doesn't want to go after any nonchalant guys anymore. She wants all the chalant. KK had some good lines, especially in confessionals. She was very funny. Her Libra got to shine. It makes me assume that she wants to have a better version of herself presented this season. Let's hope. As for Andrea, she did explain that she was single. That was my question during my cast assessment. She had a boyfriend all of last year and into this year. So it was good to see her clear that up, that she's not scamming allegedly. Though I would say, like, a boyfriend of 11 months, would he really want his girlfriend to go back on this show? I don't know. Maybe they agreed, but it's still probably going to be problems. I did love Garbi as much as I thought I would. I thought I would like her just because she's a Sagittarius, as I had my little astrology video yesterday on this cast. But she also comes across very likable and also very competitive. She says she loves money, which makes me think she's really going to go for the win. It was surprising to learn that she is a 22-year-old virgin. I don't think Love Island shows are where she's going to find Mr. Right, especially on Love Island Games USA, but I guess you never know. What struck me most about Andrea was that she was really looking forward to Tyrique being on this season, because they have apparently talked outside of the show after she got back from this past season. I talked about how Tyrique was very much into Andrea online. They have exchanged DMs, and then of course they're meeting for the first time in person this season. And I can already see how much they are into each other and are vibing with each other, which we'll talk more about here in a second. My first impression of Mert, knowing nothing about him at all, was that he does really, really want to present himself as a really, really good guy. And since he's not American, he might actually be authentically nice, but I guess we'll find out. Lucinda, my first time seeing her, she came in pretty funny. I mean, she had a really bad first episode, which we'll get into. I did find it interesting that Lucinda found Mert acting too cool for school, but also seemed to like him most out of all the guys. I can't tell if she really liked Mert or if she just really liked that Mert was into her, but nonetheless, they did seem to have a connection. I will say, in my astrology video yesterday, I was wondering if this cast was really each other's types, if they would even have chemistry, but a lot of the first couples did seem fitting for each other. Nicola was pretty funny. I called it yesterday in my astrology video that she was gonna be the comedy relief this season, and I still think that is gonna hold true for Nicola. She also seems low-key very competitive though, which we'll talk about. And then Chris's first impression was rough, because he came in seeming very cocky. He really thinks he's like the one everybody came to watch. Like, he's the one that's about to bring the ratings just because he was on this past season of Love Island. But like, he wasn't even an OG. He came in midway through the season, and yeah, he made the finale, but he would have never made the finale if he wasn't with Huda. So Chris acting like everyone should know me, saying that you probably already know who I am, it was ridiculous, and it was cringe, because some of these people are from European Love Island shows. Like, come on, just introduce yourself. I talked about yesterday how Aries love to put this machismo into their impressions, so that's what they always look like on the outside. And you saw that with Chris, you saw that with Tyrique, the two Aries. As I've talked about in my cast assessments, this is my first time seeing Tyrique as well, and despite the machismo, I do like him. I can tell he's going to be good TV, which is what I care about most. It was very funny when he talked about how he is strategic, he loves strategies, and Kendall was asking if that meant puzzles, and he said no, like manipulating people. And I see that's gonna be his game. That's what I heard about his game this whole time, that he likes to run the show. I can see him definitely trying to do that again. His ego might get in his way, though, this season for sure. As for the first challenge, look, for anyone watching this for the first time, you can't expect challenges that are on the level of the challenge or of Survivor. These challenges on this show, they're kind of like basic weird Love Island challenges, but this one was a timed comp at least. So I guess I can talk about some of the things that stood out in the first challenge. It stood out that none of the women chose Isaiah, which is not good for my fellow Pisces. But honestly, he didn't keep himself in the best shape coming off of his season. It was 3 years ago. It was a long time ago. He's aged into his later 20s. Life gets the best of you in your later 20s. And I can tell it's gotten the best of Isaiah compared to his first season. He also just comes across very boring. So I don't actually have a lot of good to say about my fellow Pisces in this first episode, unfortunately. We did see in the challenge that my girl Garbi, she did kill the first challenge. They made it seem with the edit like she flew through the comp compared to the rest of the girls. And she did end up getting the best time for the girls, so that's good for her. Also in this challenge, we got to see that Garbi and Kendall do have chemistry. When they talked the first time, I could tell that they did. I think that they're both funny people, and that's why they also get along, but I could tell in the challenges they both chose each other too, so there's something there at least. Chris, of course, killed the challenge for the guys too. I do feel like his height helped him in that first part of the challenge, though. By this point, they had already learned that this season they're playing for $250K. It's a much bigger prize than any past Love Island seasons. And to me, it seemed like the show and Ariana and their producers, they're all really hyping up the comp side of the show, the strategy side of the show. I do think they want to set this apart from regular Love Island series, but they do also have to keep the love component. So we'll see how it all plays out and how it all comes together. Now that there's fan voting as well, I don't know how that's going to play a part in this season. So it's gonna kind of be a mess, but I'm looking forward to how they put it all together. But like the whole strategy side, the whole competition side, that's part of the reason why I said in my earlier videos for the assessment of this cast that it makes it easier for me to root for people like Kendall this go round. So with Garbi and Chris doing the best in the challenges, they got to couple up first. And they did not choose each other despite the fact that they could have made a power couple for competitions, both getting first place in the challenges. So maybe people aren't completely looking at the competition aspect yet. Although KK, I believe, called it out, saying that maybe they didn't choose each other because they don't want the target on their backs really early, which is also could be true. Garbi did choose Kendall to couple up with. And I'm already not going to lie. They are my favorites so far as a couple. I said in my assessment, and I'll say it again, that I was one of the main people rooting hard against Kendall in season 6. He was a people pleaser. He was trying to add some strategy to the game. Back then on regular Love Island, which sometimes gets on my nerves. But because this season is more strategic and it's competition based, I'm going to root for Kendall because I do find Kendall likable. He can entertain me no matter how cheesy he really is. So, because I like Garbi already, my typical love for a Sagittarius, I have to believe that Kendall sees that Garbi is good at competitions, and I'm sure that that helps their situation. But also, I want to give credit where credit is due. Kendall coming up with Ken and Garbi, a play on Ken and Barbie, was funny. He can be cheesy, but that was funny, and I think that's a great play on words for a couple in Love Island for anyone that ends up actually shipping them as a real couple, which I don't yet. I don't. I'm not shipping them because I think they're going to be a real couple that's going to make it. I'm shipping them because I'm rooting for them to win this competition strategy based game. So yeah, I know Kendall has this reputation for being an attention whore and maybe just an overall whore, honestly, but I, for one, am cutting him some slack, and right now he and Garbi are my favorite couple. Chris chose KK to couple up with, and at first that made me very worried for KK again because Chris, like I said, came on this season looking very cocky. He definitely has his eyes on winning the money and not so much finding love. To give Chris a little credit, though, I did like how he talked to KK about watching her season and how she was in a bad situation and went through a lot of shit, but how he respected that she's very ride or die. KK did say that now you have to earn her ride or die status, which I'm hoping she sticks to, and that's true. So I did like Chris having that talk with KK about her season. But then in that same conversation, you can kind of tell that KK might not just be there for winning the money and that she might be there to find someone. I mean, she did say she wants to find the right person and then win the money with the right person. And then later in the episode, you can see that Chris is worried because of the whole KK might be wanting to look for love thing and he wants to keep his eyes on the prize. So you can already see some problems building up for those two. Tyrique, of course, chose to be with Andrea. That was no surprise. They hyped each other up this entire episode. And at the end of the episode, you can see how into Tyrique Andrea really is. It was definitely in the way she was looking at him. You can always just tell by the eyes. The eyes never lie. It's a cliche saying, but it's true. You can tell when someone is either into someone they're attracted to, whether it's sexually or just even like on a soul level. You can just tell, and Andrea was really feeling Tyrique, and Tyrique could tell, which I don't know if that's a good thing because I felt like he was already playing some games, acting like it was just a hard choice, but he ended up picking Andrea, although I think that was probably him flirting. I don't know. We'll see what happens with those two. I do want to see what happens with those two. I'm a little invested to see if Tyrique plays her for a fool because he seems like the type to play, but also I feel like he just wants to play the game and win. So a lot to see with those two. Andrea chose Josh, and I feel like they are 100% each other's types from what we've seen on past seasons. And I do think they have chemistry. I mean, the funny part was that Josh and Tyrique went against each other in the challenge, which seemed to create a rivalry between the two because Josh kept finding Tyrique's hearts in the challenge, and so Tyrique was able to steal them and eventually win the heat against Josh. So afterwards, Josh kept talking a lot of shit, like he was the one that really won. And well, I like that Josh is showing personality because I was worried that he wouldn't. I actually like the shit talking here. I like the possible rivalry. But the funniest part of the whole episode is when Josh messes up his shit talking to Tyrique and is like, I'm playing checkers, you're playing chess. And then realizes right after that he got his shit talking wrong. By far the funniest part of the whole episode. Because Josh really thought he ate that. And then he realized he said it wrong. So that was great. But yeah, I respect that he's talking some shit. I also respect that Chris was talking shit during the coupling up as well. My problem with Chris is that the cockiness has been a lot in just the first episode because he's just acting. It's not a cockiness that he's going to win. That I respect. It's the cockiness that he's the most known person this season and he's the person. I feel like Chris honestly thinks he's the face of the season. And he's not. Just to say that. That leaves our last couples. Let's see. Mert and Lucinda, Nicola and Isaiah. Mert really did seem into Lucinda. There was a language barrier there. He was struggling to get his words out, to say nice things about Lucinda. And I feel like it's already hard for Mert to get words through those big old veneers that he has. But in typical Scorpio fashion, like I said, the one thing I got right on my astrology video yesterday was that Scorpios like people that are obsessed with them so that they can then obsess about said person. And Lucinda was liking that Mert seemed obsessed with her. And he really did seem into her despite the bit of a language barrier explaining to her how and why. As for Isaiah and Nicola, Isaiah is saying that he respects how competitive Nicola was in the challenge. He's thinking they're going to do really well in the next challenge because Nicola not only seems competitive, but she seems smart and maybe even strategic as well. Isaiah doesn't seem anything like that. Isaiah just kept embarrassing me in this episode as a fellow Pisces because not only has he come into this season out of shape compared to the other guys, like I've said, he wasn't chosen in the challenge by any of the women. And then when he's talking to Nicola, who's from Malta, she's having to explain proper English words to this American Isaiah whose first language is English. Like, Isaiah really was the poster child for America right now. That someone from another country has to explain English to him. Just embarrassing. Isaiah could be first boot for all I care. The best of the episode was at the end. Like, this is when the Heartbreakers came in, and I feel like only one half of the Heartbreakers is actually interesting. But in came Soléne and Charlie. I'm going to struggle with her name, but I think it's Soléne, something like that. They go around, they got to kiss everybody, and they had to choose who they wanted to give their heartbreaker necklace to. Soléne, maybe it's Soléne. Soléne went first, and why I enjoyed her is because she totally owned the stage. I could tell from the moment she walked in, she was meant for television. I see how she went from Love Island France to a show on Bravo, because she is entertainment. She already, after just being in the last half hour of a 2-hour episode, went high up on my list. So far, her and Garbi are my favorites. I want to like KK. I do kind of like Nicola as comedy relief. But Garbi and Soléne are my fave so far. I loved how she went around teasing all the men, giving teasing words to the women. In the end, she chose Mert, which was surprising and very interesting because she made note at one point how Mert wasn't even looking at her when when Soléne kept walking up to Mert and Lucinda. I don't know if this was because Mert was actually intimidated or because Mert actually is really into Lucinda. I was hoping that he wasn't going to get chosen, but he was chosen, and that leaves Lucinda single and vulnerable. Lucinda had a terrible first episode because not only was she last in the first challenge, she then got her guy stolen at the end of the episode. And I do think that Mert was actually into her, so that's a rough go. I can't tell if Soléne was doing it from a strategy standpoint because Lucinda was in last place as the women, and maybe she thinks Mert will want a better competitor, or maybe Soléne was just doing it to fuck with Mert because Mert wouldn't even look at her. I mean, either way, no matter why she did it, Soléne, whose name I'm gonna struggle with, she was gold though, and I do enjoy her. As for boring Charlie, when he and Soléne first came in, you can tell how confident she was. And you could tell she was about to have a ton of fun. But Charlie looked nervous as all hell. When he was first standing there, when they first came in, he did go around kissing everybody though. And I feel like his choice was kind of surprising, much like Soléne's. But him choosing Andrea also makes sense because Andrea is also his type, as we all know, Hannah last season. The big deal about him choosing Andrea, though, is earlier in the episode, Josh and Andrea were the first couple to kiss. So not only do they have chemistry, but they were really going for it out of everyone else. So they were the first people to kiss outside of a challenge. So for me, that was a big deal when you compare it to everybody else. So yeah, Andrea and Josh are each other's types, but then here's Charlie stealing Andrea away, and she's Charlie's type as well. But I'm here for the beef that's going to take place between Charlie and Josh because Josh has shown that he is all about talking shit this season. And maybe if he's talking a lot of shit to Charlie, it will finally make Charlie step up his game and become better reality television. Maybe. I also do, to end this video, it's gone on longer than I wanted it to. I really do like the heartbreaker twist. What it seems like is the next two episodes, they can give the necklace away or attempt to, since Charlie now gave it to Josh. Josh has the heartbreaker necklace and is vulnerable. Soléne gave it to Lucinda, so she has it and is vulnerable. It seems like they will have a chance 2 times maybe that they can challenge somebody else in the next episode, and then maybe again in the episode after that, and then maybe whoever has the necklace at the end of episode 3 likely goes home. They said in 48 hours whoever has the necklace is going home. So they can challenge people to a duel to give those necklaces away, and then whoever has the necklace at the end of 48 hours is eliminated. That's what I'm assuming. It's a good twist for the first elimination, and honestly, I wouldn't hate it if that's the way eliminations take place all season. You give the heartbreaker necklaces away. You gotta keep yourself in the game during duels. If that is the case, though, I'm wondering what America will be voting on. But yeah, I enjoyed the first episode. It was long, but still good overall, and I'm looking forward to the season. The cast did better overall than I was expecting. I knew there was going to be some good TV in this cast, but there was even more than I expected. And unfortunately, Isaiah the Pisces, not one of them.